Hello and welcome to this presentation on improving your board work. For this presentation, we'll be answering the questions about what is board work, why the need to refine it, where to start, how can it be applied, and how did I apply it myself. The first question is what is board work and how is it used in the classroom? For starters, it is the physical manifestation for what is being taught in the class by the teacher. It also represents all the various avenues taken by the teacher during the organic learning process happening in the classroom. And it can be a great connecting tool for students to remember important key points later on during the lesson. The next question is why the need to refine our board work. For most teachers, they go into the class and use the board to show answers to textbook questions and not much else. However, if we refine our boards to have other key information, it can serve our students to a greater extent. If we have a more refined board, it can be used as a reference tool for insecure students to refer back to when applying the language. It can also be used to facilitate self and peer editing in getting students to look back at the board and reflect on what language they have used. It's a great record that can map the progress of the lesson and support students in taking more organized notes. It becomes vital for learners to use in brainstorming activities and error correction games. And finally, it reinforces models of language by providing a visual representation that supports learners in retaining the information. In Michael Lewis's The Lexical Approach, he says that often when new words are introduced into the class, it will be appropriate not simply to present and record the word, but to explore the grammar of the word, at least noting its principal collates and perhaps one or two institutionalized sentences containing the word. If we follow this advice, our boards need to be greater lightning rods to catch all the sparks and notions that occur during the lesson. The next question is where to start with our board work. Well, we should start with a template and a lesson plan that contains enough information about the class and how they handle new language. We should visualize the board as a dinner setting in that we should keep all work on the board in clean, uniform lines rather than messy, undefined lumps. We should also incorporate important components of the lesson as far as the actual lexis is concerned. For example, we can include grammar points or structures used with the words, lexical sets or chunks that occur naturally, pronunciation and stress patterns to help students that are weaker in conversation, timelines for distinguishing tenses that can be difficult for students to understand initially, and colored markers for differentiation of changes in verb form or order. Here we can see what a more refined board looks like, as shown in Jill Crawshaw's Better Board Work video. All the information is neatly lined out, and information can be edited at any time without disrupting the pattern. The next question is how can refined board work be applied? Here we have an example of board work that is laid out with distinctive areas and clearly marked language notations. We have lexis of daily activities listed together, next to time phrases that can be connected, and underneath shows how the structures can be used and changed depending on the subject pronoun. We also have space dedicated to an activity that defines how the daily routine lexi can be applied to a time on a clock. Here's another example that applies refined board work in other ways. Here we are given a clear title for the lesson to keep students on track, keywords with pronunciation keys above and simple definitions underneath, derivations of a keyword in various contexts, and finally a simplified structuring of what makes up a document they are studying. The question that remains is how I applied refined board work to one of my lessons. In this case, I wanted to use it for one of my Trailblazers classes that is towards the high end of the course level. This particular group of students is between the ages of 11 and 14. They all have a strong knowledge of the topics we cover in class, but lack the grammatical awareness that is necessary to communicate effectively. For this particular lesson, I wanted to focus on debating lexi and the structures that are used. I ended up with common structures on the left of an elicitation of debatable topics, key debate-related vocabulary on the right side, and a largely disproportionate guide for syllable breakdown on the far left side. After going over the board work with my trainer, I reflected on key aspects that could be improved for later lessons. I decided that lexical chunks should be listed more clearly. I can try to create text boxes before class. This way the board is easier to follow for students. I could have replaced the syllable section with more relevant information, such as a debate timetable. And finally, I can try to use different colored text to show change from agreement to disagreement. In conclusion, let's try to keep our boards simple, keep them clean, keep them concise, and keep them in perspective. Thank you for your time and good luck on your future board work.